Hold on tight for the next hour. You're entering into a place, a zone called the alternative to the alternative media. It's a place, a special place where even truth seekers fear to tread.
All right, people, let's move like we've got a purpose. Affirmative.
Okay, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, people of all races, colors, and creeds, welcome back to the greatest show on earth, the Investigative Journal. Greg Anthony here, and we are the greatest show on earth because it's better than having to listen to the Black Pope who lives at Borgo Santo Spirito Cinque, and he's not African-American, by the way. Tell us that they control the world from China to America, from Australia to New Zealand, all over the place to Europe, and all parts of every one of their 180 countries or 200 countries they have concordats with. Tell us that, they control it all without anybody knowing. But we know. Yes, we do, because we are Inside Georgetown, a new publication on the market, and they can't stop us now, because we have all the inside information on the latest, greatest, most craziest outbreak they've ever done, ever since the Spanish flu. And this is even better, because now they've locked down over 180 countries. Slowly, people are starting to catch on that they are nothing but peasants, nothing but extras in their great movie. But we're right here inside Georgetown. When Hollywood's closed down, we are open for business, telling you exactly how great director Luigi Franconi is going to start his second season with a push towards tracking, tracing, and testing to replace the 3 R's in America. Yes. And boy, they are doing it in full steam. 3,000 people a week being hired in America to track and trace and do everything against you, to know exactly where you go. If you are considered a COVID virus victim, you can't leave your house. How are you going to work? Oh, well, they don't care. But anyway, they're paying people. So they get rid, this show really, folks, is better because we explain you why poverty is now hitting America. 2 million people lost their jobs, for example, in Pennsylvania. They could go to work. Most of them aren't even sick. When have we started quarantining healthy people? Well, we did it with the Japanese after World War II. We did it with all the Jews in World War II. They know how to do this, folks. Here on a Friday on Inside Georgetown, we tell it all. Yes, this show is better. We got to talk about African President Augustine Yiga. He was jailed in Uganda for telling his congregation, hey, folks, let's go to church. The coronavirus doesn't exist. He faces 7 years in jail. And they're doing the same thing here in America. When's the last time you could go to your church of choice? Even though most of the Protestant churches have been infiltrated by Jesuits, at least you got a choice to go listen or you don't. But now you don't. You can't go to church. You got to listen to that Pope on TV. On his EWTN channel. And this show is better, of course, than listening to the Pope sit in... Oh, yes, he goes now to St. Peter's Square all alone at night. This is what Inside Georgetown gives you. There's no one out in Rome. And he goes and dances around the obelisk. Yes, an old pagan dance that he learned from so many of his pagan friends, who claim to be Christians, who claim to be Jews, who claim to be Protestants, who claim to be Buddhists, who claim to be Hindus. They all come to the Vatican now and celebrate. At night, it's called the Pope's COVID-19 party. They've cleared all the people out of Rome. The only people in Rome right now are these occult people dancing around the obelisk, which is a pagan symbol, a worship symbol to Isis. Yes. And can I tell you the story? Because this show really gets down to the real nitty-gritty of these things, the important things. This show is better than having to listen to people tell you that the Statue of Liberty and all of these signs like the Freedom Statue in Washington symbolize the freedom of America. Well, where is your freedom now? I'm telling you, they want your mind, your body, and your soul. So we have started Inside Georgetown because the push to keep, free-thinking people off the internet is really coming into full force. There's a doctor that's had many of his videos taken off the internet. Well, the other day, I had mine taken off because I played a clip of him, yes, talking about, hey, this thing is a fraud. And he went through some really good things. Now, why do they cut him out? But today I see they got Dr. Ron Paul's urgent message to every American. Now, I listened to like 20 seconds, but my history with Ron Paul goes back a long way, so I'll talk about it. That's Dr. Ron Paul. And I believe they let him on because he's a Jesuit shill as well. And if you understand the Hegelian dialectic, they have to have controversy. So they have controlled opposition, as you well know, even in Congress, yes. And then they have it in the media, of course. And they play the Republican-Democrat game. I'm for all of them putting NWO behind their name. For example, I'm Representative Matt Gaetz, NWO from Florida. It will make it easier. Yes. And I think that Sean Hannity ought to do the same thing. Hey, I'm Sean Hannity from NWO Fox News. Let's get it right down to where it really is the truth. Do you realize that if the American people heard the truth, this country would fall apart in a day? Yes, it's built on lies. It's built on propaganda. That's the two good things America does. They lie to the world. They send out propaganda. And then when everybody wants to come here, now they want to build a wall. Well, where's the wall now? Nobody's even talking about it. Nobody's talking about ISIS. That magically went away. Yes, that's how they had to do this. You see, they always get rid of enemies that they create, and then they get another one. So Trump had to get rid of ISIS, even though ISIS really was a creation of the Jesuit Vatican-led New World Order. That we learned in Inside Georgetown. Yes, when they have they've been doing a lot of sitcoms over the years. This one is entitled COVID-19, okay? They've done ISIS, they've done 9/11. I mean, if you go way back, even before TV, they were doing things like the Lincoln assassination, the Civil War, World War II ushered in. They had news coverage. Then, of course, the killing of Kennedy and all that stuff that was going on. When TV started to really take hold, and then they started to really spread the propaganda. And that's what we're living today. So, this show is better, because now we know it's better than watching these occult people. The only thing, who's on the streets in Rome now? These occult worshippers dancing around the ISIS statue, the ISIS obelisk in St. Peter's Square, which is 666 feet tall. The one in Washington's 555, because we're the little brother of the Satan worshippers in Washington and the obelisk worshippers. Who knows what they worship? They may worship all the gods, Satan, the whole crew. They do it because they don't want to miss anything. They have some worshiping Odin from the Vikings, some worshiping Ammon from the Egyptians, some worshiping the Greek gods, some worshiping the Egyptian gods, etc., etc. But now, the only thing that's floating around Rome are a bunch of rats in the street and these people dancing around the obelisk in St. Peter's Square going, yes, we finally got the one world government. And they're throwing in all of their sacrifices. Yes. What are they throwing in? Well, they go underneath into the catacombs and start sacrificing people. How many do they sacrifice a year? I wonder. We know when we do our research work that the Vikings used to do sacrifices at their special place of sacrificing every 9 years, and they sacrificed 9 of everything, including human beings. So, carrying on that great tradition, I guess this COVID-19, has to go down in history as one of the biggest BS stories ever perpetrated on human beings. With an invisible enemy, and everybody's buying it. So the other day, this show is better than having to do a show and then getting YouTube to go, your show did not meet community standards. Well, what are community standards? Well, the community standards are if you start saying anything now that's contrary to the government story regarding this, they're going to look for ways to set up their little algorithms and all their little robot people to take it down. Because the goal here is to keep the information to a minimum. That's how the Jesuit order has functioned for years, secretly. You don't know that they created America. Yeah, you never, because they're good at hiding things and working together with top people and bribing them. Now, this show is better than not getting credit. If you were these guys, wouldn't you want to get credit for being a founding father? And we try to do that on Inside Georgetown here. We try to give credit where credit is due. And if we went back in history, oh boy, we could spend hours and hours telling you about all the things they did that we don't know about. And that's what we've done over the years. This show goes back a long way. And we've been through every one of these so-called enemies. You know? And every one of them was created by the very people who want to stop them. And then they say they want to protect you. Well, this show is better than reading the Bible and not understanding that. I know so many people out there. And not some of you that listen, of course. I know some of you that listen here, because I'm on a radio station. That's a very, very Christian station. And many of you know much more about the Bible than I do. But there's so many people out there that never really can put it together. And I've tried to do that in my way, in showing you how evil exists. So this show is better than going through your whole life and not really understanding the story of Cain and Abel, or at least trying to understand it, trying to decipher it, and matching up all of that biblical history with what's going on today. Gives you a better grounding in life, doesn't it? But anyway, let's get back to what's going on in this crazy world. And I thought what I'd do today is, of course, take a few phone calls. And on Friday, it's Free Friday. We're going to have 1 hour of freedom, right? Every year, every day they're going to give you 1 hour of freedom. And what can you do with that hour? Well, anything you want. You can take a walk to the park with your dog. Yes, some people are now calling the police because you're out walking your dog away from your home. That's happening. Oh, yes. And some people are calling the police if you're leaving your house and you're not going for a necessary item. What is that? And before I get into taking some calls, I want to talk about what I've noticed on the internet as far as all of these tracing, tracking, and testing people. I call them the COVID-19 detectives that are going to be out in force and on the internet in force tracking you. First of all, go to my website at greganthonysjournal.wordpress.com. I put together about a 30-page packet of information that I will send to you for a $10 donation. And it's got a cease and desist order in there when they come to you face to face. It's also got information on what you should know about when they start coming to try to vaccinate you and things that you can protect yourself with, documents you can make, because it's going to happen. And they're talking about basically if they think you have the COVID virus and they can't even test for it, and the tests are basically 4 out of 5 false positives. So most of you are going to get it, whether you have it or not. You're going to be healthy as an ox and then told you can't go anywhere. And then they're going to try to find out who you talked to in the last 2 weeks. And these people are being hired in droves. Now, check this out. There's a website called Indeed. And this website, what it does is it lists online jobs and jobs all over the country. I subscribe to it because I like to do some legal work, and there's contract legal work over the internet you can do for attorneys. For example, an attorney looking for someone to file a complaint in a civil lawsuit, and they want to hire somebody to do the research and the writing. So I now have looked at these ads for months, years, the last couple of years to keep food on the table, which may get scarce now since all the farmers have been told to destroy their food. For some strange reason. It doesn't make any sense. But then again, nothing does with these people. And I think most Americans realize it. Even the most conservative Americans that carry the flag and everything else, hot dogs, American pie, and everything are going, give me baseball. And I've got one on the line, so hold on, Charlie. It's Charlie from Alabama. Hates me. Yes. He's going to be on the line here in a second. He's got some bones to pick with me. Oh, really, Charlie? Just wait your turn. It's my show, but I'll take Charlie's call in an effort to be fair. Okay. So anyway, here we go with this whole garbage that's out there, and people are starting to understand it's not true. But what do we do? I mean, there's really no way out of this outside of understanding, first, that it's a fraud. Second, you're never going to get a fair trial in the public court of opinion as far as even rationally discussing the numbers they fabricated, the fact they haven't even proven through testing that the tests work, whether, let alone what COVID virus is. And then they have really shut down a lot of good medical care, so people are dying in places that they normally don't. And it's making it look as if there's bodies all over the streets. But when the hospitals are shut down, and they're not doing, normal surgeries. In fact, I talked to a lady the other day that has been waiting 2 months for a serious back surgery. They won't do it. She's been in tremendous pain. Now, what's that going to do? Now, tell me, these stories never get covered, so it is a fraud. It is their way of sacrificing the peasants. It is their way of sacrificing, to the gods, whatever gods they worship. While the Pope, last night he was out there. St. Peter's Square, running around in his white robes going, thank God we finally will take over the world again. And he's throwing in all these things at the obelisk. Now that obelisk, folks, is really good. If you do your history, what is it? It's a phallic symbol. And in Egyptian mythology, or is it Greek? I get them mixed up. What does it really matter? That Isis got into a battle with his, not Isis, but her husband, with her brother, and they cut him up into like 13 pieces. She gathered, then she went out and gathered all the pieces, but didn't have his penis, okay? So she erected an obelisk, and they all worshipped it, okay? That's what that is, okay? And they tell you it's freedom. Now, the Vatican has been up against the wall on this question from some people that you never hear about in the mainstream, and they say, no, it was a beautiful gift to show our unity with other countries like Egypt and everything, and everybody buys it. The same thing they buy, the Statue of Liberty is a beautiful statue. When we start looking at what it really means, people go, wow, does it? And the government goes, no, of course it was a gift from France to show our love for this beautiful free country. After the Jesuits created the French Revolution, as they created the American Revolution. So here we go into this situation where we go, what are we going to do? So we have things going on that we can't explain, but we have to understand that they are not going to allow you to have a free debate in the public forum. It's going to be basically anyone who dissents against this is going to be considered non-American, against God, and basically you will have a right to be put in jail because you will be a health threat. Now, how do I know that? Do you ever go, the other day somebody sent me a video, this wasn't taken down, of Alan Dershowitz. Now, we've all heard of Alan. He's a great Harvard lawyer professor. He was always on CNN, then he switched over to the Fox News channel because he didn't think Trump was getting a fair trial. The whole thing's a game. Now, Alan's been a civil rights lawyer, and, he's a smart cookie. You can't deny it, but he's not using his talents for the right thing, and that's really getting to the truth, and he's a Jew, so I call him a papal court Jew. Now, Alan has a right to argue. He said one thing in a 1-minute video. You have no right not to be vaccinated in this situation because you will pose a health risk to many. And I said, okay, that's a good argument, Alan. I have an argument too, that we have a right not to be vaccinated because it's not a health risk. So let's bring the experts in and let's discuss it. And you know how long that would take? Probably 100 years with the court system we have. And then the judge will throw it out saying that that was some technical reason that you didn't have standing to sue, or something like that. And so in the meantime, millions of people are being vaccinated. Why don't we put a stay, a temporary restraining order on vaccinations until we understand what this is? Do you think a judge is going to do that? No. Trump the other day, who works with these people, right? He's nothing but a Jesuit shill as well. He's also, in Inside Georgetown, considered to be the pompous POTUS. Yes, that's his acting name. That's what they call him, when they're sitting in their chairs, waiting for the cameras to get ready, getting their makeup on. But he's going to be up for another Emmy for Best Acting President in the history of the world. And he's now going, yes, we are going to fast forward this vaccination, and we're going to have 300 million ready by next year, et cetera, when they don't even know what it is. So why don't we put a temporary restraining order and say, listen, you can't just poke needles into people without knowing what it is, but 2 or 3% of the medical group who are under the Jesuit hand and the Vatican hand and the controlled freaks that work for them in Washington have put out all this propaganda for years about the germ theory, viruses. They go from one to another, and every one turns out to be a fraud. Now any doctor, either they're killed or they get censored on YouTube, or they let the ones out there like Ron Paul, he's out there giving an urgent message for Americans. They let him talk. Why? First clue, he did say some things that said, look, the numbers don't make sense. There were 22,000 deaths of the flu during the same period of time of last year, and nobody ever locked down the country. So he's saying a lot of good things. But I didn't listen to the whole message. But letting him talk is because he works with them. Now let me tell you how I think he does. Years ago, before anybody was talking about anything on the internet, when there were only a few internet radio stations, there wasn't YouTube and all that stuff, I was on a station called Republic Broadcasting. And now Ron Paul is from Texas, and there were people like Alex Jones on Genesis. I happened to be on that radio station as well, right after his show or before it. And Ron Paul was a big deal during, being a civil libertarian, a doctor, a very smart guy. And my show was one of the few that really knocked the socks off the Vatican back then, And so Ron Paul would go on shows that had less listenership than me, shows that weren't as popular, but yet would go on Alex Jones's show, which was more popular, okay, because they pump a lot of money into him. And then I said to one of the guys, the producers of the show, or my producer, I can't remember her name back then. She left me because, John Statmo was kind of a goofball that ran the station. I don't even get into stories about him. But she finally left when he pulled out a gun or something at one of our meetings. But anyway, so I said, why don't you call Ron Paul and get him on my show. Get him on the Investigative Journal. We want to talk about the Vatican. And everybody knew back then. And at that time, they were trying to get me kicked off because they called me a one-trick pony. You talk too much about the Vatican. So he's going on all these shows, not only Alex Jones, but others, on the internet, alternative. But he refused to go on mine. And I know why. Because he didn't want to get questioned by me, because they couldn't control my questioning. And he did not want to get questions that I would give him regarding the Vatican. That's why. So that's why I've always wondered about him. And now that I see he's got an urgent message, and they're allowing that to go on, but not other doctors that are really more accurate and not in the Vatican fold are censored. So there's a problem. Real problem. You got to go deep and down and dirty to get your information. But if you want to get to the millions, boy, you will be crucified. I mean that. Look at all these doctors. Check it out. There's a website. In the last 5 years, I think over 100 of these homeopathic doctors have been killed under strange circumstances. Hey, this show is better than being one of those guys, right? I mean, come on, America. When are we going to stand up for our rights, even though we don't have any anymore? Back at 3 minutes on, the Investigatore Journale.
The book of Revelation says, The spirit of prophecy is the testimony of Jesus Christ. This is at the very heart of FirstAmendmentRadio.com. In that spirit, we have created the Prophecy Reality News app for all of your mobile devices, streaming First Amendment Radio 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Available for your Apple, Android device, and smartphone, absolutely free. Get the Prophecy Reality News app installed today, so you can listen to First Amendment Radio wherever you are. The Prophecy Reality News app. Get it now.
Visit crosstheborder.org, CROSS, crosstheborder.org, to get your print, EPUB, or PDF version of Nicholas Arthur's new book titled When the Third Temple is Built. That's crosstheborder.org. When it comes to prophecy today, much of the evangelical Christian world has their eyes on Israel, waiting and watching to see when the third temple will begin to be built. The plans are drawn, the Jewish people are eager. Most evangelical Christians today believe that the rapture will happen before the third temple is built. Hi, I'm Michael Eugene. I was taught that Daniel's 70th week was in the future. Is that really what the Bible teaches? Have we searched the scriptures and found this to be true? Why is it so important for a re-established Israel to build a third temple in Jerusalem? Is it necessary to build a temple on the same location already occupied by the Dome of the Rock? Is it necessary for sacrifices to take place in the temple on Temple Mount? Is there really a rapture followed by 7 years of tribulation? What is the New Testament temple? Can we identify history and prophecy? Who is the first beast in Revelation chapter 13? Who are the 7 kings in Revelation 17? I have asked all these questions, and I have found Nicholas Arthur's new book, When the Third Temple is Built, answers all these questions and more using Scripture to interpret Scripture. The Bible says that no prophecy of Scripture is of any private interpretation. Nicholas shows us in his new book, When the Third Temple is Built, how the Bible interprets prophecy and not man's private interpretation. Visit crosstheborder.org, CROSS, crosstheborder.org, to get your print, EPUB, or PDF version of Nicholas Arthur's new book titled When the Third Temple is Built. That's crosstheborder.org.
The following program is labeled dangerous and off limits by the supreme Jesuit command. But stand tall, people. Listen up, and you may just learn something.
Oh, dear Lord Jesus, this ain't happening, man. This can't be happening, man. This ain't happening.
Okay, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, don't get off your seat if you're sitting down. You're listening to the greatest show on earth. It's for everyone, boys and girls. We can still say that, at least on this show, without being condemned as not being politically correct. This is the greatest show on earth for all peoples of races, colors, and creeds, no matter who you are. And even down the road, when half of us are half cyborg, half human, with this genetically modified vaccinations they're going to come up with. Wow, we got to start thinking of how to get around this. Greg Anthony here, second half hour, last half hour of the week. Free Friday, we call it. That's it. 1 hour of freedom now in America every day. You got 1 hour to go outside. You get 1 hour of freedom. And freedom means going to the store. Yes, that's your big day out. Or maybe going to the barbershop and going, oh, you can't get your haircut today. Or maybe going somewhere like wanting to buy something like a chair, and they go, oh no, that's, you got it taped off like it's a crime scene. No, that's dangerous. What's dangerous? Everything is a crime scene, you know? The other day I walked into a store purposely coughing 10, 15 times. That's the way you keep people away. You don't want to talk to somebody that day? Just do that. Or if you're in line, these are some tips you only get on this show. Greg Anthony here. This show is better than having to stand in line at an Office Depot on their little, yellow markers on the floor like you're in kindergarten. I'm going to bring a blanket. And next thing I'm going to go, okay, children, lay down, ring a bell, and we'll all go to sleep for 20 minutes and take a nap. But anyway, it's better than that, so I figured out a way. When I go, I step on that, and there's 5 people in front of me. I just start coughing. I, of course, cover my mouth. Coughing, sneezing, getting down on my knees going, oh my God, I think, and you know something? They all clear out and I'm the next one in the store. But the question is, will they let you in? Oh, they will. Oh no, you can't come in because you coughed. Oh my goodness, what's this world coming to? It's going to be fun going out, isn't it, after this dust settles on the COVID virus? Well, it's not settling. In L.A., they say now they want to keep L.A. County locked down till August. And then there's Pennsylvania. Then there's Connecticut with all their stupid rules. I mean, if you go through state by state, you're going to just flip out. But anyway, these COVID trackers and tracers on Indeed, this website, folks, it's amazing. There's about, when they got remote jobs, let's say there's 30 remote jobs available on this one email. 15 to 20 are for trackers and tracers for these companies that are working for different states. So they're getting private enterprise involved, and they're going to have remote trackers and tracers and people that actually, units that go out to your house. And they're going to be paid anywhere. I noticed it was anywhere from $17 to $18 to $30 an hour. So people who have been unemployed now in the droves are going to be doing it. And really, just think about it. You're going to be spying on your fellow man. But people will convince themselves they're doing it for an honorable reason. Like saving the world from an invisible enemy that doesn't exist and forcing your neighbor to sit at home and then being responsible for him committing suicide. Are you complicit in that? Oh boy, that would be a tough one to prove. But you're not going to get any justice in the court of public opinion or even in the courts. Worse, in the courts. Because the media does your bidding here, does the bidding of the Vatican here in the court of public opinion. And the justices who are I call them the injustices. And when you go, okay, dishonor. That's how I refer to them. They could look at me. You know how people go to court and they go, hello, Your Honor. I go, hello, Your Dishonor. They don't know what to do. I go, hello, Your Unholiness. That's what I say to the cardinals and the bishops and the guys who I go into confession. And this show is better than having to go into confession and going, bless me, unholiness, for I have sinned. My last confession was 30 days ago. I went to the park with my dog, and I violated the stay-at-home order. Oh, my son, say 10 Hail Marys and 150 million Our Fathers. And that's from a priest who just had molested 30,000 people. Kids. That's what this world's all about. But if you start looking at all the things we've done on this show, and this doesn't surprise me now, this complete lockdown, but there is one guy out there. Before, I better take some calls. We call it Free Friday. And there's these radio shows that have Open Line Friday. Isn't that great? I remember one time I tried to call one of those. This was way back in the day. I tried to call one of those NPR stations. They're supposed to be. The truth comes out. Amy, what's her name? She's a Vatican shill as well. Might as well get the truth out somehow before they shut down everything. And then I got to go out and sit on some soapbox in some park until they arrest me going, hey, folks, welcome back to the Investigative Journal, the greatest show on earth. We're now talking through a megaphone, and the only way we're going to get this message out is I have somebody here typing it that will give it to Molly the Pigeon, and she will send it out all over the world. And by the way, I'm still at the Roman Colosseum. I'm editing and doing all of Inside Georgetown work to get this magazine off the ground. And we're waiting for Molly to come back with orders from the General Slats Grobnik of the Second American Revolution, who's busy collecting trinkets so we can break the Jesuit curse. You know all about that. That's how we're conducting the Second American Revolution. And I'm happy to report we have many followers. He's told me he's got 3 vice generals, a couple colonels, and we've got over 300,000 people that want to join. But they said they got to wait because they can't go outside. That's going to be a good crew. Boy, do I wish I was back in the day of the Vikings. I really mean that. It was so easy to get people to fight. That's what they live for. And now we live for TV and sitting on the couch and listening to the emperor tell us, oh, you know something? I'm going to let the lords of the states decide. And Dr. Fauci, he is crazy, but I'm trying to drain the swamp what I can't. Donald, forget about it. We all know you're a fraud as well. You're just playing the Hegelian dialectic, and all you're doing is wanting to win another Emmy. I know because we listen to Inside Georgetown, and I've got that fly on the wall. Got that fly on the wall in that tunnel between Georgetown and the White House, which is capturing all this great information. Yesterday we told you they're going into the second season, which is tracking, tracing, and testing. And you're going to get a few reruns now. And also a little bit of extra news they're putting out. Yes, the news, you hear it? All this stuff is coming back. The Mueller investigation. Oh, we've got to arrest all the Comey. We've got to get rid of... Michael Flynn's been treated so bad. But, you know, since they started this BS in these stories, you'll hear them all the time. The left fighting the right. Nobody's got arrested on the globalist side, right? They put a few sacrificial lambs in jail on the nationalist Trump side, but you don't see Clinton. You think they're worried? Come on. They know the game. They're just there to make America think something's going to happen. But nobody's going to get arrested. You can listen to Sean Hannity come till the cows come home, and it's never going to happen. You know, I'm tired of, it's great theater, but come on. The story's getting old. Just drop a few bombs. Make it interesting. Do it like you did in the old days. What about raiding villages? There's all these towns in like South Dakota, all these little towns, you could just take them over in a minute, like Tripp, South Dakota. That's one I know about. There's about 300 people in the town. There's one pizza parlor, one bar. There's no jobs anymore. A few farms in the surrounding area. You can buy a house there for like $15,000 if you're looking for a good deal. Call me. Why don't you send your troops in there and just start taking over villages, ransacking them, burning them like you used to. Leave the head, carry the heads, put them on TV like they used to do. Come on, you guys. What is this? Fighting invisible enemies, killing people with needles, toxic air. You don't want to stop chemtrails. Some people say viruses don't exist, right? And it's toxins that kill you. Why can't we discuss that? Honestly. Because there's 3 or 4% of the medical doctors that control everything. Money, research, the whole shot. So anyway, I got to get to George. He said he's my engineer here. I have, something, you don't realize what these pigeons can do. Molly's got a couple friends. Annie the pigeon. She's pretty good at answering telephones. Yeah, she's my engineer. Annie, okay, Charlie wants to come on. Okay, this is Charlie from Alabama. He hates me. I hate you, Greg. Y'all. How you doing, Greg? You son of a gun. I'm telling you one thing, boy. Hey, Charlie. I'm not African American. Please don't call me boy. I'm going to call you any darn thing I want, son. You're talking garbage over there. You're talking nonsense. Listen to you talking bad about Donald. He's been trying to help us. Son, look what he's done in Alabama. Charlie, can I interrupt? No, I ain't going to let you interrupt me. I've been listening to your garbage for the last week. Well, turn it off, Charlie. Just turn me. I can't. My son always plays it. Now I've had to send him out to the woodshed. But let me tell you what's really griping me. You're not respecting the American flag and God and all that darn thing. Y'all, boy. Charlie, you got to call me boy. I'm letting you talk. Greg. But now I'm going to talk. Charlie from Alabama, there's millions of us here listening to this stuff. We're a health risk if we don't go out. We're going to let them vaccinate me. I'm too tough. I got an arm here full of tattoos. I go out and I wrestle bulls in the day. You think I'm going to... Well, Charlie, can I ask you a question? Go right ahead, Greg. Why do you stay home if you're such a big man, macho man? You know something? You got to trust these people in Washington. Oh, Charlie, hey, listen, thanks for calling. Tell your friends in Alabama to listen to my show every day. Greg, I'm gonna run out there wherever you are in that Roman Coliseum, and I'm gonna pull you into that Coliseum and let the horses drag you. You. Okay, no. Got to get Charlie off. Boy, I'll tell you, taking these calls gets tough. I mean, I got to get somebody. Annie? I'm going to talk to Annie. Is anybody calling that likes me? Just take the ones that like me, Annie. Okay. Yeah, you're probably wondering, but pigeons can speak in Kansas. I've learned that. I watched The Wizard of Oz and Toto and all that stuff. And it's a magical place, Kansas. The Coliseum sits here. And as we continue with the investigative journal with serious stuff on this Free Friday, should I take another call? Do I have... Nobody's called, Annie? You mean they don't love me? That reminds me. Inside Georgetown also keeps an eye on many of our actor friends, because America basically is turned into a bunch of idol worshippers. You know, deep down, we despise these people, you know, if we're the peasants making only extra wages, you know. They're finally paying us a little bit for being on their sitcom, you know. Now they're paying us off with what? They're giving you $1,200, and now they want to give you another $1,200. The Democrats are proposing a bill which is going to go in front of the Senate for another $1,200, you know. So that's not enough. I mean, let's talk. If we've been on this show they've been doing since you've been born, and in Hollywood they're getting $50 to $100 a day, just add it up. They owe you a lot more money. Take it out of your taxes and just write on there, I've been an extra in your film. Yeah, that'll go far. But anyway, this Inside Georgetown is interesting because today we want to pay some homage to some of the actors who are really important to the Vatican-led Jesuit New World Order, because they are symbols of our country. They are the America is a bunch of idol worshippers. We worship these people as if they're gods. You know, like Brad Pitt, Angela Jolie, Jennifer Aniston, you name it, Sean Penn, all of these guys, Tom Cruise, Tom Hanks, Ron Howard, Opie. I remember Opie. Remember the Andy Griffith show? Andy Griffith, I'll tell you what, Andy was a good guy. I don't know what his political affiliation was, but I happened to, when I was doing a little Hollywood work, I was on a set when he did, I don't know, he was a lawyer. He always wore a white coat. This was after the Andy Griffith show, of course. And Andy liked to tip it a little bit. And could tell you some stories, but a good guy. You know, I looked at him in the eyes, and I figured, hey, he's a good guy. When you ever really get to know somebody, you got to look them in the eyes. Now you can't get close enough, especially when you get older and you got bad vision. You got to stay 6 feet away. Did you ever notice, you know, since we're talking on Free Friday and we have a free mouth to talk for an hour still, of course, I have the COVID virus hoof and mouth disease, which is getting progressively worse every day. Seems that I can't stop, can't control myself talking like this. I mean, I'm talking against the government. My goodness, that could lead to trouble these days. But anyway, the COVID, at least we could talk, you know, freely for 1 hour, say what we want. Everybody comes to this show during this time of need to see how crazy everyone's doing. Yeah, that's what I want to do. I want to keep track of the craziness. And, of course, being, you know, nothing but one of their peasant sacrificial lambs, I'd like to show how the craziness has gotten more crazy every day. You know, it's kind of a progression. If you start listening to my shows in the beginning to now, some people may say, boy, he's going insane. Then others will come to my rescue and say, no, he's not. He has been very tricky in his life, trying to get out the message with a little bit of humor and sarcasm. And you know that works, because I got notified that even the Black Pope, and he's not African American, I keep having to say that, he laughs at my show. So they're going to let me live. It's kind of like the court jester who makes fun of everybody. Like, you know, there's a lot of these comedians out there they let live like that, you know? Yeah. Even if they talk against the Vatican, they go, well, you know, he's crazy. So you got to be crazier than them to even exist in this world. You can't be honest, be a good guy. You know, that's going to get you killed. Look at all these homeopathic doctors. You know, I follow that website. There's a few websites I follow that really intrigue me. One is the Clinton Death List website, which always is fun to listen to when you want to see how people commit suicide after being cut up in pieces in a duffel bag, and the coroner says, that's suicide. Try it someday. Try cutting everything up, like your legs and your arms off and everything, and then put yourself in a duffel bag with a note saying, I cut myself up and put myself in a duffel bag because I could not stand, this COVID virus lockdown. Of course, this show pays tribute to the actors who have been going through more hell than all of us. I feel sorry for them, and this next 2 minutes is dedicated to them. We have to understand, these rich people will just leave. Are they really? They're actors. And I'm not talking about the political stage here. I'm talking about the entertainment stage, which is, they do kind of things that are even a lot more real than what this White House thing is. The show that Franconi, from the Jesuit director, this, Jesuit film director, is doing this sitcom, is what these actors are doing in Hollywood is more real. But they're all stopped. Nobody's working. They can't go out. They're all going, oh my goodness, I can't take it. Yes, we get reports on Inside Georgetown of the craziest things. Like, remember we told you about Tom Cruise? He was supposed to do Mission Impossible in Rome, or in Italy in June, and that's canceled. So he's jumping from building to building in L.A., going crazy. He's used to it. It's a habit, so he can't take it. So he goes out at night when nobody's around, and he's jumping around. And then I'm thinking, what's those guys do that play Spider-Man in that? That's a fun story. Those actors are really going out of their mind, Then we got all of the other ones that can't take not having any applause or love. These are the people that are love me, kiss me, hug me. I need your attention. I have to be looked at. I have to have my makeup on. I can't even get a facelift now. What is wrong with this world? You know how many actresses are in pain right now? They had a facelift scheduled and they can't do it. They can't do their pedicures. Are they sneaking them into their $1 million mansions without us knowing? I hope the testing, tracking, and tracers tell us about those people. That they're having late night parties and they're violating the stay-at-home orders because they're just they're paying off the police. So all of these people, then they do there's a video out called How the A-List Actors Are Coping with This. First one I looked was Arnold Schwarzenegger. I like Arnold. He's played both sides of the fence. Political thing, Terminator, the whole shot. Well-built man, by the way. Still today, And he was giving us a really important message. He sat there in his kitchen, and he had his 2 ponies. They're little ponies he has, and they look like dogs because he's so big. And they're in his kitchen going, and they had names, and, made me feel good because I love animals. And I'm going, did he teach him not to poop in the house? How did he do that? I had a horse one time, and I used to train racehorses as one of my pastimes when I was younger. And I, for the life of me, could never get them to poop in the bucket, I wonder if he taught them. I'm going to have to call him. But his message was simple. He was sitting there with that great German accent going, you can't go out. No, nobody goes to the restaurants. We don't go. We stay here in our house. We have fun with our ponies. Arnold's going out of his mind. He's bringing the horses in. You think we have problems? And that's because he's used to being out in front of the public, and nobody now can applaud. But Arnold is telling you, do not go to restaurants. Do not. That's his basic message. And then they go from one to the other. They got Gloria Gaynor singing some song in her bathroom. Of course, she had a whole band in her bathroom. She's in there brushing her teeth or something and singing that song, I Will Survive. And the band is in the bathroom. Now, that's breaking the stay-at-home orders, I think. I heard the band, so, must be there somewhere. You can't have more than 3 people in your house. What about if you have a family of 15? You got to cut the heads off of some of your children to sacrifice, give them away? Oh, man. Some of the more serious stories. Let's end on a good note. Annie, the pigeon, my engineer here, has told me there's another caller on the line. Annie, I don't want to take any more. Tell them to email me, okay? Like we tell everybody now, you don't want to talk to somebody, email me. So anyway, listen to this. Let's end with some stuff here on Free Friday. You know, we got 1 hour of freedom. Listen to this. These articles, I mean, there's hundreds of them now. And how can you ever take all this information and think it's real? I think you got to make a decision here. This is a joke. This whole thing is nuts. Just start thinking how you can get around it, you know, in your own way. All right. You know, think of it. What do you got to do? When we were kids, 16, 17 years old, we wanted a drink in bars. Yeah. Oh, my goodness. What heathens. No, we were kids, you know. So what did we do? We couldn't show them our IDs. We didn't even have them back then. So we had one guy, he made phony IDs. Yeah, mine was from Alabama. No pictures, nothing back then. And we, you know, some of us looked, I used to go with Joe Patrica all the time. Joe. Because he looked like he was like 30 years old, had this huge, I didn't even shave back then. You know, I looked like I was like 10. So I'd go with the older guys, and we'd go in, and, you know, the bartender would be there, knew our dads and everything, you know. All he cared about was covering his butt. Yeah, they'd serve us. You know, we'd sit around, you know. So now, we got to think in those terms. You know, break little laws. Do you think this is a valid thing? No. So what are we going to do when they come to test us, track us, trace us? Well, listen, I put out the COVID virus information packet, which is not legal advice and solid information, not to get around anything. Be upfront with them. Tell them you're violating my rights, and I've got a little list of rights. It's only $10, and I've got one person to buy it so far. What kind of people are you out there? Come on. You want to fight? This is one way to do it in the modern day. Also, subscribe to my bowing school. That's what I do now. Instead of shaking hands, I give them a French bow, and I'll teach you how to do that properly. Hey, so much more. All out of time on Free Friday. Thanks for listening. Have a great weekend. Don't let them push you around, and think of ways to get around these testing, tracking, and tracers. My way is if they call me, I don't know him. Just wrong number. Bye. Okay. Talk to you later on the Investigatore Giornale.
The book of Revelation says, the spirit of prophecy is the testimony of Jesus Christ. This is at the very heart of FirstAmendmentRadio.com. In that spirit, we have created the Prophecy Reality News app for all of your mobile devices, streaming First Amendment Radio 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Available for your Apple, Android device, and smartphone, absolutely free. Get the Prophecy Reality News app installed today so you can listen to First Amendment Radio wherever you are. The Prophecy.
Since the beginning of time, kings have sought it, nations have fought for it. It has been traded, it has been borrowed, it has been purchased, it has been stolen. There's a reason for it. To secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and to our posterity. Invest with the security of gold and silver. Call Discount Gold and Silver Trading at 1-800-375-4188 or visit discountgoldandsilvertrading.net. Listen to Financial Survival with your host Melody Cedarstrom right here on FirstAmendmentRadio.com at 4 p.m. Eastern or 1 p.m. Pacific Time. Visit discountgoldandsilvertrading.net or call Discount Gold and Silver Trading at 1-800-375-4188. Toll free 1-800-375-4188.